Do we have more tips and tricks?
No, we're done.
Okay, that's good. The timing and everything was about right. So, so it looks like then we'll move on to the next thing, which would be the challenge from last month, right?
One more thing, I have a winner of the random drawing for the tips and tricks, and that is Phil Sykes.
All right, Phil.
I'll be sending Phil Sykes his coupon number.
All right.
Congratulations, Phil.
Thank you.
That vacuum chuck piece just got cheaper.
It did, yeah. It's paying for itself now.
All right, way to go. And Sue, like always, I'll just let you drive the names and who's showing what.
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, there it is. Share. Full screen. This is Ann Molina.
Okay. I didn't do what Mike showed, but I was just experimenting with multi-axis turning, and that little twig pot was a 3x3 block of walnut that I had, and I turned that on 2 axes. And then the piece in the front was just a 2x2 piece of pine that I picked up at Home Depot just for practicing spindle turning. It was something Bill Paulo told me I should do. So I did the 2 axis on the one, and then I did a 3-sided box and a 4-sided box. And then I thought, well, I would see if I could make a 4-sided spindle turning. So that's what that piece of pine is in the front. That's turned on 4 axes.
Okay.
Those are interesting, Ann.
Thank you.
It looks like you need to water it.
Yeah, it's dead.
This is Daniel Dubois.
So this was my second attempt at eccentric turning off of a tenon. So I just had it in the tenon, and then so I turned the goblet, the top part of the goblet, and then I twisted it in the tenon and did that a couple of times too. So this was my second ever attempt, and this is a piece of rosewood that I turned.
Start with the cheap stuff, huh?
How did you sand it?
Pretty
So
good.
with this one, I sanded it and finished it in each section. So I did the goblet part, and then when I rotated it and cut that, then I would sand and finish that portion. So I did it from top to bottom, section by section, turn, sand, finish, turn, sand, finish, turn, sand, finish, etc.
Did you ever question whether it was going to balance?
No, I
Does it
didn't, because I
naturally?
knew that I was going to turn the bottom piece to match the top on the
Okay.
same plane. So I wasn't worried about that. I did have that center step chip out on me twice. And so that had me worried that I was going to be able to save it, but I did. And that's actually my video on my YouTube channel that I posted yesterday was me turning this. And so it was scary, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it, and I can't wait to do more.
It's a fun project. Looks great.
Oops. This is Dave Stalling.
This is a piece of walnuts. It's about 3 inches in diameter. The objective was to get essentially a 4-axis turning here, and it's a model on some of the turning you guys have done for pepper mills. And essentially the trick was to find a good way to make transitions from the offsets. They're 120-degree offset, 5/8 inch off center, and then the center line from the top and the bottom. And so I was happy to find a way, and I'm not sure how I did it actually, but to get a reasonable transition from the face of the twist to the smooth ends of the cup and the bottom. Oh, that was fun doing. And it was actually the 3rd piece of wood I tried it on. And here you can see the twist in the bottom stem. It's nice to have dry wood when you're doing this. The other thing I found is that using a safety sprue, which is just a round ring with a point, doesn't eat up the wood when you're turning these off center. And you know, all you got to do is keep enough pressure to keep the thing spinning. But you can see it does, you can make a reasonable. The problem with making those twists is they are not in the plane on the end. So you have to leave enough space that you can bring the bottom to join that area and effectively turn it off to make it a good transition.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of chisel that part out then at
Nope,
the end?
not on a lathe. It was the
Okay.
ultimate. And I didn't cheat with sanding much either.
Okay, this is Ed Jacek.
This one is cherry and rosewood. And I did it instead of drilling out my holes out to a 1/2 inch, I used a countersink. So it kind of gives them an oblong shape. And
Good idea.
it doesn't make the holes quite as big, and it kind of gives a little bit more detail, more. So, and then that one's got about a 3.5 inch finial on the bottom. And so I looked up in back issue of the AAW magazine, and they were talking about you want to try and make your top and your bottom kind of have similar shapes. And then the next one, what did I do there? Nope, I guess I didn't send you the other one. I had one that's got walnut and oh, that is the walnut one.
And then
Yep, that is the walnut one, and that's got a 4-inch spindle, and this was the rosewood and cherry.
okay, and this one is Jack's. Whoops, they're struggling here.
So the finials are made from walnut. The inside part, the sea urchin part, is made from, I believe, a spalted crab tree. The thing that I did different, I don't really have a drill press, so the side holes I drilled initially with the size I wanted to end up with. So that was probably the difference from what Mike did, and that meant I actually used some, when you're turning pens, you have the pieces you stick in your mandrel, and I can't think of what they're called now, but I actually had a couple of those that fit in the holes I made there. So I stuck those in, put it on the mandrel and tightened it up, and was able to turn and create the wings on it that way. So
That's the bushings.
the bushings, yes,
Yeah.
right. Thank you, Chris. So that was probably the main thing that I did differently. And for the hollowing part, I think I just used a regular chuck. It was small enough to fit into a chuck, but I padded it so I could get the hollowing done. That was
That's
about it.
cool.
Otherwise, it was pretty close to what Mike's demo was.
Nice job, Jack.
Thank you.
That's Chris.
Oh, this is me. And one of the things that I did to kind of throw a kink in things on this, on this one, as I turned the initial ball shape, I went around and created beads around the whole ball. And then by doing that, when you cut the fins in, then it created this texture on the fins that's kind of like what I was seeing on the sea urchins. They have kind of more points that come up, but it just kind of gave it a different look. On the thing that I struggled with was getting my drilled holes to be straight up and down. So I had some, what that does is when you put it on the mandrel, then you're not exactly in alignment with all the other holes, and your fins kind of, some are thicker a little bit than others, but end result, I got where I wanted to be with it. So if you go to the next one, Sue, I think that's just a close up showing you some, you know, how those ridges kind of show up on the fins. And I did not, on this one, I did not drill out the holes any bigger than the 1/4 inch that I started with, kind of like Jack and Ed had said he had done. I was also using bushings to create pressure to hold my piece onto the mandrel. But it worked out. I mean, end result was pretty fun. Sue, I think I got another one. Both of these were oak. On this one, I cut valleys. Instead of beads, I cut coves into the ball shape before I turned it on axis. And on this one, I did drill the bigger holes. I don't know if you can see through that hole in the middle, but you can see where on the other side, it split down the whole thing. I'd used green wood when I did it. Both of them were oak. This one, I added some color, just a little bit of stain in it to try to get some red color out of it. But what I kind of, the main thing I altered was just putting a little bit of shape to the, or adding some difference to the round shape before I changed the axis, and that kind of has that effect then on the edges of the fins that go around it. So I think I got one more picture, Sue, that's just a close up of that. And again, just fun project though. It was fun watching the shape come about as you change the axis and started working it through the different holes on the mandrel. So that's it.
All right, nice.
That's Mike Thomas.
Okay. This is a emerging bowl. This is the other half. I did first one and I had to put those two pieces together. And so this is the other one, and turned it on 2 axes. So just an emerging bowl out of honey locust.
Okay, this is Rick Bywater. Are you on mute?
Can't hear you, Rick. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So basically, this was a big piece of green pecan, and the thread chaser that I used is 4.5 TPI, and it came from England, and it's rounded. Okay, so I've always had a very difficult time trying to chase threads with rounded edges. Well, I'll tell you what, it turns wonderfully with green wood. And so I put this on a different axis. I turned it, the bolt part, and then I've used the technique where you just throw it in the freezer for a long time, and then you can bring it out and slow dry it. I put straps around there to keep the wood from cracking as much as I could, because you can see the pith coming just on the top part there where that crack is. That's the pith of the wood. So basically it dried for about a year, and then I twice turned those threads. And then once I did that, I made my segmented nut out of white oak and turned it, and it turns beautifully. And I don't know if I did the video, Sue, but if not, that's fine. Everybody can see what it is.
It looks like it's there.
How the hell did you mount that?
My challenge this month, I turned a multi-axis bolt out of a piece of green pecan. It's probably been drying now over a year, and I had to twice turn those threads. Once that was done, I then made a dried white oak nut. Just for kicks.
Okay, so Mike, you asked me, how did I turn that?
Oh, how did you mount that piece to cut the bolt part? Gee.
Okay, so the first thing I did is I turned the log round, all right? Then
Yeah.
you see the center of the bolt?
Yeah.
The center of the bolt is where you then put that in the tailstock, and it's also mounted at the very edge of the log, so that now you're centered and you're able to do the threading.
That's a lot of weight swinging around there.
It is. It really is, and you have to be nuts in order to do this.
Did you like wear a motorcycle helmet or something?
Hey,
body armor?
You know, I've done a lot of crazy things, and luckily, knock on wood, I've not had really any major blowups. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a good challenge. I don't know what I'm going to do with this piece. Maybe I end up building something, and the base is heavy. So you envision building some kind of a curved sculpture piece, and it's bolted on with that nut and the bolt. So who knows?
Suspension bridge.
Yeah, it could be.
I think that's something to go for. Good job, Rick.
Wow.
Okay. And that's Rick Tucker.
Yeah, this was a vase that I did a twist on it. It was a piece of old red oak that has some spalting, a lot of wormholes that I filled with epoxy and then hollowed it out. So that was actually 4 axes involved in that piece.
Did you bore? Cool. Did you cut the hole to hollow it, or did you bore that with a?
I bored it. I use a Forstner bit to do the hole, and I stepped 2 different sizes: the larger one and a smaller one that went deeper.
Oh, okay.
So use it for like a twig vase or something.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And then the next picture. This was inspired by a demonstration that Ben Simmons did. I turned the bowl and I decided to do the decoration around the outside. He uses a router to do it. I used a Dremel with a 1/8" round cutter. And so I cut the slots around the outside, the long ones, and then by using the Dremel vertically, and then I went horizontally again along the lathe axis to cut the smaller slot, which is also a little bit shallower than the long one. Just to add a little bit of interest to the bowl. That was my first shot of doing this, so.
It's always exciting to me to take something that is complete and finished and looks good, and then try to do something else to it, because there's a little bit of apprehensiveness to it, but yet when you're done, it's a satisfaction of saying, I took that step.
Each of these decorations were indexed 15 degrees apart.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing.
That's a piece of Bradford pear.
Okay. This one's mine. It's a paper flip cup that I turned with a twist. It was supposed to be a box with a lid, but the lid doesn't really fit it at this point. So it'll be either another kind of lid, or I'll finish the inside with a foil leaf to make it a little more interesting. And that's it for our challenge.
All right. Thanks, Sue, for getting through those. Thanks, everybody, for participating. We had quite a variety of different multi-axis type turnings there. So great job. Let's see. I think then that brings us up to Kevin, is there a drawing for the challenge?
Yes, there is. And I have randomly chosen a winner. And this is also for 2 craft supply coupons. And Stuart Shanker is the lucky winner. Congratulations, Stu.
Stuart, you can buy another motor.
Thank you. I'm tuned out now.
Right.
That tip was well worth it.
Thank you.
That was interesting and very practical, that you can still use your lathe while you're doing the finish work too. So,
hey, don't we have the whoever won the prize names the challenge for next month?
Exactly.
That sounds like a winner. Yeah. So Stuart.
Okay, Stuart.
Well, wait a minute.
It would be the demo challenge.
Enter
Wouldn't it?
for that part. I only entered for the tips and tricks, but I didn't enter for the challenge.
Oh,
No, but-
okay.
I think Phil Sykes should choose because he won the actual
Well, yeah.
demo tips and tricks. So Phil Sykes.
Phil.
Yeah. So for next month, I would say probably 3 things. Either you have to turn something that includes a bearing, or a piece of drilled metal, or something with a motor attached to it. So in other words, include some kind of metal in your wood turning. And if you've never turned metal before, look it up. There's, find something soft, go get a little plumbing insert or something that's made out of like soft copper or something. And it can add like a nice little detail. If you want to make a handle, use, a metal ferrule, something like that, and include that in your tray.
Yeah. Keep it as
That's
simple
good.
or as not simple as you want. Right?
Sure.
But use that as
Be
your
fun.
driver. Okay.
That's a
Sounds
good.
great.
I already got it. I'm gonna
Thank
have
you,
a
Phil.
nut.
After what I saw this month, I'm curious to see what we see when we involve metal and motors and all this other stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what we end up with next month. Thanks, Phil. All right, Sue, I'm going to let you take over again, and we'll go on into the show and tells for this month.
Okay, this is Ann Molina.
All right, this is a piece of tulip poplar that I got from David Alexander a couple of weeks ago. And it's 8.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And it just has some real interesting grain to it.
And I've got a piece of that too. What did you put on as a finish on that?
I put on a mistake. I put on mineral oil, but it, because it's kind of a gummy wood, it just kind of didn't do much of anything. So anything but mineral oil, maybe China oil or Danish oil, something like that.
Yeah, it's got a lot of sap to it. Thanks for sharing.
It was kind of gummy at times when I was turning it. But it's interesting because I can hold it up to the light and then see that section right there in the center of the front. If you hold it up to the light, you can see straight through that. It's interesting.
It's not because it's too thin.
No, it's not thin. It's
It
just
would be a good lampshade wood, right?
yeah. I think there's one more picture of it. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, it's interesting. That's it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And this is Dave Stalling.
This is one
Oh,
of
my.
my larger attempts at turning. It's the mate to a turning I did sometime earlier. This is a segment piece, or I mean, a piece of an oak, white oak tree that basically fell over because it didn't have enough roots to hold it on the hillside behind our house. And it lay up there for a while, and I finally got the ball of the roots out, and it's 11 inches in diameter and about 8 inches. And the interesting feature for me was using super glue and oak turnings to fill the areas that are, you see, contrast between the dark and the light. And those are the natural features of the wood. And of course, it's semi-wet, and that means it moves around a little bit. But this is hollowed clear to the bottom and turned, and I used one of the little, about 1/8 of an inch carbide cutter on the end, and I can't remember what that, it's great for cutting end grain, and this is all end grain. So I'll have a tool version of that at a future time, but I'm real happy with that. And this is just walnut oil, and this is the companion piece. It's about 16 inches tall and about 10 inches in diameter. And I just really was fascinated by the natural staining in the inclusions. So they make an interesting pair, I think.
Let me get this right. Did I hear you right? You said you hollowed that all the way down to the bottom with a 1/8 inch tool?
Well, I did use a Forstner bit to get 4 inches or 3.5 inches out the middle of it. But I did use a small carbide cutter, and it's got like the very Dickens.
Gosh, it had to be like a 3-foot long tool.
Well, yeah, that's true. 18, try 20 inches.
Oh boy, that was interesting, I'll bet.
Always challenging.
Great.
And this is Rich McCartney.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't. This I started before. Can you turn that sideways?
We're getting all the wrong tools up.
There's a
At
rotate
the
up the top.
There's a rotate.
So anyway, I started this a month or so before
Top center.
Mike's demo
Top
last
center.
month, which I missed because we were out of town. And there's 18. These are actually the
in the
shells
center.
that I got from a shell shop in Carolina. So I finished these up over the weekend, and there's 18 of them. I'm going to take about 6 or 7 of them and do a mobile, and the rest I'll probably do as individual stands.
Cool.
Nice job. What a variety.
Yeah, that was I got carried away on this one until I had all 18 of them done.
Thanks for sharing, Rich.
Yeah.
That's Rick Tucker.
Last month was my wife's birthday, so I made her some tulips for her birthday. They are unfinished in this picture, but I will go ahead and finish them and then dye the stems green. So that was a fun little project. The white one is silver maple, the red one is cedar, and the other one is unknown wood yard.
So spring's come early.
And this was another piece of that unknown wood from my backyard. It has all kinds of little characters in it. So I cast it in resin and made this little bowl out of it. You can see through the the resin on the side, you can see the light through it. And then in the very back is a crack that's filled with resin.
So you put that in a pressure pot or?
I did. Yes, pressure pot.
Okay.
Those are nice, Rick. Thanks for sharing.
And we seem to come to the end of these. I need to apologize to Anthony because I saw his email earlier this afternoon, but I did not catch it when I was pulling pictures out.
Anthony can always share with us next month too, right, Anthony?
Well, we can try pulling his tip out of the email if we want to try that.
Are you trying it, Sue?
I'm looking for it. It wasn't with the others, which is why it got lost. Eccentric 1 and 2 are the challenge. Build oblique and side are.
While she's doing that, why don't Mark, why don't you just start talking and show us what you got?
Yeah. While Sue's looking for that, I turned the bowl yesterday with the help of Anthony and Sean. Come home and finished it up and started drying it in the microwave, and it had a little log running through it and kind of split on me. But other than that, it looks okay. Big thanks to Anthony and Sean for the assist.
Okay, I found the picture and hopefully we can pull it up here. And Anthony can talk about it.
This was my eccentric turning. The sphere is turned. I don't know how many. There's no limit to how many axes you can turn it on. I probably turned it on a couple of dozen in order to get the sphere right.
How do you balance that top piece? Oh.
This is when it's taken apart. The sphere, the box is made out of macassar ebony, and 2 stems in the base are made out of boxwood. The 2 ends of the spindle on the right extend into the sphere, so when you open it, you can see something inside.
That's so cool.
This is the tips and tricks, and what it is just a cup chuck, and it's what I use to turn all of the spheres. Those little puzzle boxes I made last month. The sphere I made for that last piece. This is how I hold it when I turn it. Looks a lot like the way. Lost it already. The vacuum chuck that somebody was.
Rick Bywater had?
Yes. Same basic idea. Just this holds only by friction is all the only difference. That's the same thing. It's just unloaded. That's just what the cup chuck looks like. The thing you got to be careful about is to make sure the edge is real crisp. It's got to be within a couple of degrees of 90 degrees in order to hold. And that staining around the edge is actually some chalk, not the new stuff, but the old stuff. Or sometimes, you ever heard of snapping a line, like a carpenter when they snap a line? That stuff is chalk. Yeah. The new chalk they use for schools and things is not real. It's a clay, and it won't work. But this works real well. It acts as it's actually a slight abrasive, and so it holds real well.
Kind of like the pommel horse guy going up and getting the chalk on his hands before he
That's
gets
exactly
on,
right. That's the same stuff. You don't need. That's just the same thing. I showed this to somebody else. They wanted to know what a cup chuck was, and so I took these 3 pictures and showed it to them. This is a burl that somebody wants me to make into a bowl, and I'm offering him an option to core out a bunch of bowls out of it. And I don't know if he wants to do that or just make a big one. I don't know how much it weighs. I rolled it, I didn't lift it. But it's, you can see on the front part of it, of the burl, you know, just the cut surface, the front part of the cut surface, it's full of bark inclusions. And so once I cut it, it just looks so interesting. I think I'd like to core a bunch of bowls out of it, but I have to get permission. So yeah, this is the show and tell part.
What type of wood is that burl? Do you know?
Maple. Oh yeah, but this is last time. That's all I have, I think.
Okay, that was. Okay. So we'll stop share.
Thanks, Sue, for finding those, and thanks, Anthony, for showing us more examples of creativity. Well, here we are. It's not even 9 o'clock, and we've gotten through our meeting this month. I want to thank everybody for coming back in. We had pretty good showing tonight. I think I saw 35 in there at kind of our healthiest point, and really appreciate
37.
you guys. 37. All right. I think that's one of our bigger ones. Want to really appreciate all the people that have contributed their tips and tricks tonight. That went really smooth, and really saw some ideas and were introduced to several things that I had never thought of before. So thank you all. Hope we see everybody back here next month, and hope that our open shop starts to get a little bit more normal as things continue to improve in terms of the pandemic that we're dealing with right now. But we probably will still be planning on Zoom meetings through May anyway. And after that, we'll just have to kind of see how things are progressing. But we're hoping for the best. And thanks to everybody for sticking with us and participating in our meeting. It makes it so much better when we have good participation. I think that's it for tonight.